Today, we're talking Texas and Oklahoma bolting for the SEC and the likelihood that they have an impressive showing in the league. And it's because inspired here by a graphic that I saw put up by Fox Sports and RJ Young. And by the way, shout out to RJ. Man, he is the true YouTube college football OG who's now at Fox Sports. But this is what it says. In the next 10 years, combined, how many SEC championships will Texas and Oklahoma win? And I'm sorry, Texas, but I had to laugh when I saw this graphic, audibly laugh, because it is the exact same. If you're asking how many SEC titles combined will Texas and Oklahoma win over the next 10 years, it is the exact same question as asking how many supermodels will Brad Pitt and John Kurtz combined date over the next 10 years. That's the comparison here. Texas isn't providing anything to this, okay? We know that Texas isn't doing any of that. Hey, if you want more clever quips like that one, follow me on Twitter at JL Kurtz, and you can find those all day, every day. Here's the deal, man. This is going to be an Oklahoma video, and it's going to turn into an Oklahoma video pretty quickly because I just will not seriously entertain Texas in this conversation. Moving to a tougher conference when over the last decade, they have legitimately been. They have been a 7-5 average record, a 7-5 program over the last 10 years in the Big 12. They've only finished outright second in the league one time in the last 11 years. Their last conference championship in the Big 12 was in 2009. I've got all sorts of stats here. They've lost at least 4 games every full non-COVID season over the last 11 years. They have 3 times as many losing seasons as top 10 finishes in the last 10 years. And now they're going to go see Texas A&M and Oklahoma every year and the potential of Bama, LSU, Georgia, Florida. No, I'm not going to seriously entertain this idea. I saw it floated on Inside Texas that, hey, this whole idea of Texas was at its best under Mac Brown when the Big 12 was at its strongest. Nebraska, K-State, Colorado, Texas A&M, all some pretty good teams and programs going on during that era of the Big 12. And that's when Texas, they rose to the level of the competition. And now going to the SEC, Texas will rise to the level of the competition. I'm sorry. Look, I really like Ian Boyd. He's been a guest on my radio show many a time, but I can't disagree more with that logic. I think the reality is Texas has made one great hire in the last 25 years, and that was Mac Brown. And they had a great run. Since then, they've screwed it all up. I'm not going to seriously entertain it until I see otherwise, until proven otherwise from Texas. Zero titles over the next 10 years for Texas. Now for Oklahoma, this is actually a reasonable discussion here, right? Because the Sooners' laundry list of accomplishments is very impressive. College football playoff in 4 of the last 7 years, 6 straight Big 12 titles, 14 since the formation of the league in 1996. They recruit at an extremely high level. We know that. They have one of the most sought after coaches in the game in Lincoln Riley. And it's only 37 years old, by the way. And they have tradition and resources. They have everything that you would need to compete at this level in the SEC. And I think that talent level should grow now for Oklahoma going to the SEC. It feels like that talking point gets used more with Texas. Hey, now that they can slap an SEC logo on their chest, how much does that elevate their recruiting profile? Because Texas's recruiting has slipped a bit from where it was under Mac Brown. The same principle works and applies for Oklahoma. And they will be recruiting the state of Texas as well. Like, I think this can actually elevate Oklahoma more than it does Texas on the recruiting trail, especially when you think of defense. And that's where Oklahoma's been lacking. They have so many more playmakers on offense. Defense getting better under Alex Grinch, but now I think you have a chance to get more playmakers even on the defensive side of the ball because of the fact that they can recruit to, hey, we're playing in the SEC. I also think we have some evidence based on how Oklahoma has fared against the SEC in the postseason. Now, this is very dangerous. And yes, I know some of you immediately take that and think like, John, I watched that LSU game in the college football playoff. Like, what in the heck are you talking about? But there have been some other results to consider here as well. Absolutely clubbed the same Florida team that pushed Bama to the brink, right? And before we get the excuses about who was playing and who wasn't for Florida and how much it really mattered, last year was not a quintessential Oklahoma team. That's a team that lost to K-State and Iowa State. That's not a quintessential Oklahoma team, and yet they went in there and just blitzkrieged Florida. There was the Auburn game in Bob Stoops' last game in the Sugar Bowl. Again, not a quintessential dominant Oklahoma team. That was a team that lost 2 of its first 3 games. Waxed Auburn. Trevor Knight, of all people. Trevor Knight beat Alabama in the 2014 Sugar Bowl. The 2018 Rose Bowl, Oklahoma should have won that game against Georgia. And that was a Georgia team that was an OT away from a national championship against Alabama. And then the 2019 Orange Bowl, I mean, yes, 21-0 start, bad start, slow start for OU. But after that, they played right with Bama and just were shell-shocked at the beginning. So I think Oklahoma has proven enough on the field against SEC opponents here, even with these teams that had no defense over the last 5 to 10 years, that they'll be able to compete at the highest of levels. all that said, a lot of this ultimately, I think, comes down to even talking about outside of Oklahoma. Like, how long is Nick Saban going to still be the coach at Alabama? He's 69 years old. We're talking about over the next decade. How long is he going to be there? How long will he still be coaching? Regardless, not knowing the answer to that, I'm going to give the Sooners 2 titles. I'm going to say Oklahoma wins 2 SEC titles over the next 10 years. I think they're good enough. I think the program will be elevated. I think Lincoln Riley's a stud. I think they'll get better defensive playmakers, and they'll adjust. It might take a little bit of time, but I think Oklahoma will adjust. And that is a program where truly they will rise by being among some of the better programs because they have the resources, the infrastructure, and have proven to me that they can do it. Texas has not. So 2 is your answer. And I guess that means Brad Pitt and I are going to be dating 2 supermodels over the next 10 years. So I'll take that too. Hey, please subscribe if you haven't to the channel. Like this video. Leave me comments. Texas fans, Oklahoma fans, whatever. Tell me if I'm wrong. I don't care. It all helps drive the views up. It gets you better content. And your comment may be used in a future video. So let's have some fun with it. Enjoy college football. And I'll talk to you soon.